Welcome to the Way to College podcast. My name is Dr. Jose Saldivar, and I'd like to welcome all of our listeners out there. This is actually our inaugural episode of the podcast. And just to give our listeners a little bit of background. So a few years ago, some of my colleagues and I decided to start a college readiness consulting group. We wanted to work with school districts and with students and give them advice, give them information about the college application process, but also provide some mentoring, provide some guidance, I think, and also help parents out. You know, what we found was in our extensive experience in higher ed, I think collectively we have something like over 50 to 60 years of experience in higher education, and primarily working with first year students, is that we found that a lot of students, one, come to college without a lot of information. That lack of information then impacts the kinds of decisions that they make. And so what we'd like to do is, we want to be able to give students that kind of information to help them make better decisions, to help them be better prepared when they get into the classroom, but also to think about what lies after college. I think our ideas and our perceptions of college are often misguided and misinformed. And so this podcast is an extension of that work. The primary focus of this podcast will be to visit with professionals that have gone through the college ringer, have them reflect on their experiences in college, how they came to identify a major, the kind of work that they're doing, and then to see what kinds of tips they would offer students that are just now beginning to navigate that process. So I'm gonna allow my first guest to introduce himself. And so take it away, Ben.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Benjamin Nevares. I am a graduate from Chelsea, and I am also a graduate from Texas A&M. I've been up here for 6 years now, and I'm now in grad school at East Tennessee State University, an online program, and I'm here just to help out, just to show that everybody that no matter what it is that you want to do, you can do the thing. You can do that thing. It is a interesting and complicated route, but there's plenty of people out there who are willing to help and are looking for those resources. And this is going to be a really awesome podcast that Dr. Salivat has allowed us to be on and continue to promote just education and helping each other out to help grow in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. So, Ben, just to get started, I'm going to ask you to kind of take a step back and think back to, at this point, right? And I don't want to say how many years ago, right? But when you were, October, November of your senior year of high school, what were you thinking about in terms of college? Where were your thoughts? Where did you feel prepared? Did you feel like you had a plan? Where were you?
Definitely not prepared.
Okay.
Start off with that. I mean, I was definitely pretty lost. A lot of what I surrounded myself. I was in a group of friends that were um, very willing, or they wanted to go to college. Everyone was going to college. It really wasn't a question. So that helped me kind of guide an idea of where I wanted to go. But initially, I was just kind of applying. I didn't even think that I could really get into college, to be honest with you. Like, it's like, oh man, I'm the bottom, I don't know, bottom 33% or the top 33%. So I wasn't part of the 10% group, and everybody else around me was. And so I was kind of intimidated by that. I didn't really want to apply anywhere because it's like, man, what if they get in and I don't? But I ended up uh, finding University of Houston downtown. Our athletic director brought down one of the coaches from out there, and uh, with that connection, he kind of helped me understand what I could do with powerlifting. And so I was like, you know what? All right, let's do powerlifting. But then I reached out to a couple different programs. I reached out to UT, and I also reached out to A&M, and figured out that they have powerlifting as well. And unfortunately, in our sport, there is no real scholarships. And so, no, it was unfortunate that kind of guided um, my path. And at that point, I got the full ride to University of Houston downtown, and all my friends were going to Texas A&M. And it's like, well, they have a program too. I could be with my friends. Well, why not? So I kind of followed my friends, but also found that in my mind, I was like, okay, well, this is a bigger school, has a little more reputation. I could probably do better out there than at University of Houston. So ended up making that decision very late in the game, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for a lot of people surrounding me and helping me through that process, then I don't think I ever would have really either gone to college or gone to A&M.
Yeah. So I think you brought up a lot of really interesting points. One, you didn't feel like you were prepared, you were ready for that process. Um, Two, it sounds like, I think, having friends that were motivated and already had college in their mind, obviously it sounds like that helped you. But then you also talked about just having people around you to help you through that. You talked about your athletic director, you talked about others. Um, without those people, do you think it would have been a different story for you?
I I think so. Yeah, I think without the community, without a community,
Mhm.
then there is real no. It's hard to. One of my clients told me it takes a village to build anybody, to build an individual. I'm a coach right now, I'm a personal trainer, and we're working with this individual, and that's what they said. And I was like, wow, you have such a good point. It really does take a village, and without every single influence, whether it be good or bad, they helped guide my views and teach me, this is what I do want from my life, or this is what I
Yeah.
don't want from my life. Without a doubt, having each individual, again, whether they have any experience I had with each individual, there's always something to take away and there's always something to learn. So I think without the community, I would not be where I am today.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, Tell me about your first year in college. What was that like for you?
First year in college was um, intense. I was super excited to get to college. I mean, I was with my friends, and at that time, I my first week of school, I was late too because I went to go compete for Team USA in Hungary. So I got back and had done pretty well for my first time, and so I was excited. And so I lived the freshman life and probably got myself in more trouble than I should have initially. But I was also super excited to do the lab because that's what I had reached out to before I had gotten to A&M. I reached out to Dr. Lightfoot, who is probably one of the best people I've ever met. Gosh, just such a good individual. He helped me. He brought me into the lab, and he gave me the opportunity to work as a freshman. When everybody else around me were master students and seniors, and I was the only undergrad there. So I was given that awesome opportunity. But I got so excited about that, and then being on the powerlifting team, that I forgot about classes. So had the social life, had the opportunity to be my own person, be out of the house, and then had the lab work, which I was super excited about. It's practical. I love being hands on, and then the powerlifting team. So all of that added together, I forgot about classes and ended up getting kicked out of A&M my first semester.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was it is a reality of it. I think it is. What I learned after that was, if you don't do the things that you have to do, then you can't do the things that you want to do. So you
Mm.
got to go to class. You got to go and do all those small things. Otherwise, that opportunity gets taken away. So after that, I went ahead and signed a contract to be submitted or to be readmitted the second semester. And so I went back to A&M my second semester, no time in between, and I did not meet the GPA requirements immediately after that. So then I ended up getting kicked out of A&M again, and then went to Blinn for a year and a half or a year. So summer, and then one, two, 3 semesters, including summer, summer one, summer two, fall, and spring. By that next summer, I was readmitted to A&M and restarted my journey there, thankfully, and with a new head, with learning that can't mess around nearly as much as I was.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot. I mean, it really did. Like, balancing time management is such a big thing, and this time in my life, balance is the thing that continues to kind of come at me. It's like, how do I try to go to grad school, go to work, try to do podcasts and grow relationships, and whether professional or otherwise. And it's difficult. It
Yeah.
is. It is a lot to balance. Life
Yeah.
is not easy.
Yeah. Wow. So, Ben, I know you somewhat. I didn't know any of this and any of this
Yeah.
story. I think um, it's a one, it sounds like a good learning experience. It's also, I think, you know, telling that here you are, and you weren't top 10%, you said, but still top 30%. You're still able to get into Texas A&M, which is an incredible school. Um, and so I'm sure, like, if you ask the people around you, if you ask the adults around you, the people that knew you growing up, I'm sure, I would say most of them thought you're going to be successful. You're going to have a good first year. You're going to do fine. Um, but I think what happened to you happens to a lot of students, right? We go away. You've got all this freedom. You lose track of, or lose sight of, right, the things you have to do versus the things you want to do. And the things we want to do are just, they're right in front of us, right? And it's really exciting. So, thinking about that now, if you had an opportunity to talk to 18-year-old Ben, what would you tell yourself?
It's a really good question. I would tell myself that one, that I can do it. I think there is a fear of not, like, not initially applying to A&M, otherwise, like, without my friends, um, because I didn't think I could do it. And then realizing once I got here, it's like, man, you really can. It's just a matter of about sitting down and getting it done. It really is as simple as that. It's just, there's nothing to it but to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
another thing I've been saying a lot recently. There really is. There's nothing else to do it but just to sit down and get it done.
Yeah.
And that will end up benefiting you in the long term. At the same time, I would not be here and be the person I am today without any of those experiences. So they either they had to happen or not, but I am who I am today because of the struggle of being kicked out and just making sure that I would tell myself, hey, don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do not give up,
Yeah.
because there is light at the end of the tunnel. Whether you see the light or you don't, whether you're at the very start of the tunnel or in the middle of the tunnel, there is light there. It's just a matter of continuing to chug along one step at a time. In powerlifting or in strength training, with my clients, it's one rep at a time. It's nothing but of just work. So everybody hates burpees, but just do one burpee at a time. By the time you know, you've done 10.
Yeah.
By the time you've done 25, and you're on your way to 100 that day. Whatever your goal is. Keeping your head keeping your head up, keeping your head down, chugging along, and don't give up.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, okay. So you get to A&M, you don't have immediate success, right? Academically, at least, but it sounds like, you're involved in other things. You're doing powerlifting. Um, you take a year and, to go and kind of regroup at Berlin, come back to A&M. Did you already know what it is that, or what it was that you were going to major in?
Not necessarily, oddly enough. And I think the reason that I fell into my major was because, I mean, I was in powerlifting, and I knew that I loved fitness. That was the one area that I knew that I loved. I knew that I loved to work out, whether it
Mhm.
be a getaway or whatever it is. And then I started becoming more interested. I remember talking to my brother at Peter Pepper Pizza. We were sitting down and we were talking about why a powerlifter is built the way they are versus a bodybuilder, and what are those differences genetically. And then that's when I sent my email to Dr. Lightfoot just shortly thereafter, and he's like, yeah, once you come to A&M, and it was still several months away, go ahead and email me again. We'll sit down, we'll talk, and then we'll see if it's something you want to continue to do. And he's still someone who I call and talk to till this day. And he's somebody who John Hopkins and worked for NASA, NASCAR, has all these super awesome life experiences, and he's able to help guide me. And if I never would have reached out to that individual, then I don't think I again would be here to where I am today. It's all about the community.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Well, I mean, no, I think you, you sort of did, right? You said, you weren't sure about a major,
Yes.
but you knew that you loved fitness. Obviously, it was a part of your life. You were doing powerlifting. And so I think a number of things, right? It's that interest, something that you had already been exposed to, something that already was part of what you were doing. But then two, I think those people, right? Having those key people and building those relationships and those networks. And so obviously having an opportunity to work with somebody as distinguished as Dr. Lightfoot, to have them, right, and to be influenced by them and to work in close proximity with them, but also to see that, here's somebody that is doing, maybe things that I'd like to do in a field that I'd like to be doing. I mean, it sounds like you, one, you had an idea of what it is, at least a general field. But two, I think, and one thing that I would love to stress to our listeners is, you reached out to this professor, you looked for an opportunity to work in his lab and gain some experience, right? And I think, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, working in the lab gave you a sense of, is this something I could see myself doing down the road?
Without a doubt, and that it gave me that opportunity to understand if this is definitely something I wanted to continue to do, and also told me I think a lot of where someone works or where someone ends up is also the community that's involved with those people, and so for me, fitness is usually surrounded by people who want to be better,
Mm-hmm.
and he is definitely one of those individuals, and so I would come to him and tell him, I don't know if I want to work in the lab, but I'm kind of interested in being a strength conditioning coach. It's like, not a problem. Let me go ahead and send some emails, and then I'm going to get you connected with Coach B at A&M, which is part of our player development center. So then I went, sat down with Coach B, talked to her. She's like, if you don't have a love for it, then, we're looking to volunteer and get an idea if this is what you want to do. And I went back to him and was like, I don't think that's what I want to do, but I think I kind of still want to do coaching. Okay, not a problem. Let me send you to Dr. Thornton. And so I went next door to Dr. Thornton, and every single time I needed or I wanted to talk to him, just like have some feedback, like what should I do? What do you think I should do? Like, what does it sound like? And he was just such a good guy. He would tell, like, no, this is who you should talk to.
Yeah.
And same thing with East Tennessee State University. I would not be at this university without him. And I told him, he saw what I was doing, and he said, where you belong is East Tennessee State University. So I ended up applying there, and the person who runs this program is was the head exercise physiologist for the Olympic committee, the Olympic team. So he, very amazing. He's like the best program in the nation pretty much for what you want to do. And it was like, I don't know. And then I applied, and then now I'm in the program. It's like, wow, this is, you knew what he was talking about. He really put me in a good spot. And then even at A&M, when I realized that I didn't really, so basic exercise physiology versus applied exercise physiology. Basic is you're down to the molecular level, the isoenzymes and enzymes and all that, very, I guess, meticulous items. And we work on rats, versus applied, we work on humans. So he's like, you should go to Dr. Kreider's lab, go walk over there. And I ended up connecting with a gentleman that I still speak to today.
Yeah.
And I was able to work in that lab, and I got published as an undergrad, and got like 4 abstracts. And I would have never had that opportunity if it wasn't for, Dr. Lightfoot and reaching out that initial time. And now I can reach out to all these other individuals and be like, hey, what do you think I should do now? It's a different perspective.
Wow. That's a great story. And I think it is a really good example. I find that students, when they come to the university, they have this idea that, right, I'm going to identify a major, and then I'll graduate and the job will be waiting for me. And sometimes they come in and they have tunnel vision, and they see themselves as this is what I'm going to major in, and that is my career. And here, I think what you did was you talked to a bunch of people. You had a bunch of different experiences, you figured out what everybody was doing, and you were able to connect it, right? You were able to, if your career or your major and professional interest was a jigsaw puzzle, right? You were able to put pieces together by connecting to all of these people, having these really rich experiences, developing a really strong network of support. And so, I don't know. So fast forward, then take me to you're graduating. And what are your plans after graduation? What were you thinking?
At that point, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had changed majors 3 times. I think that's something important to say. I was a basic exercise physiology, and then working in the lab, working with proteins, I realized basic exercise physiology may not be for me 100%. So then I switched, and when I signed that contract, I became food science, and loved food. I mean, I love eating, so it's like, you know what, might as well major in some food, right?
Yeah.
Which I thoroughly enjoyed, and now to this day, I still have books like Gastronomy, the study of flavor, and that's just now a part of one of my interests, but not something I necessarily wanted to have a career in. So then it gave me some unique opportunities, and now I use science in my cooking at home. And then after that, I ended up doing the applied physiology. So then I got into the lab, and then I graduated with a sports conditioning major with a minor in coaching and a minor in psychology. So I was like, man, I still think I want to do coaching. So then I tried to become a teacher, and then ended up deciding, I don't think I want to be in the school system. So then it's like, you know what, let me go ahead. I actually got a job outside of the industry entirely, and went and got a job in the construction industry. So I became a salesman for a construction company, and continued to work in the lab, continued to volunteer. But I was working construction, completely different. But it gave
Yeah.
me some really a cool opportunity to learn that I don't want to be in construction. I mean, that's not me. That's not what I want to do. I
Yeah.
love people. That's something else that taught me though. Like, yes, I don't want to do that thing, but I do love people. That is the that I have a strength in, but at the same time, it's something that I truly enjoy. I think we're all in this together. As cliche as it is, we really are.
Yeah.
Um, every person, every opportunity is a learning opportunity. Every person's a learning experience. So ended up getting out of that, and then got the job with Miramont Country Club as a personal trainer. And so I took the job, and it was again kind of reinforced that idea that I definitely do enjoy people. Building these relationships
Yeah.
that are absolutely amazing with some very, very successful individuals that are able to give me a different perspective that I can kind of bounce ideas off of. I just started investing recently, and the only reason I think I really did is because somebody brought it up. Is like, this is what you should do. This is dividend investments. This is the people to invest in, and these are people not to invest in, and understand. Like, I never knew anything about the stock market, and
Yeah.
nor do I really know much about it, but there are people in my community that can kind of guide me in the right direction.
Yeah. Wow. So this has been really fascinating. And I well I know and I think I'm glad you're the first guest because I think you're an example of what a lot of students go through, right? You maybe struggle at the beginning. Um, you have a lot of questions. You're trying to find your way. You've got varied interests, and even after graduating, right? Maybe I'll work in the school system. Realize I don't want to work in the school system. Let me let me see about this construction job. Do some of that for a little bit, right? And I think that's great because it gives you all of these different life experiences, right? Um, how did you find your way to graduate school?
So I took 2 years off from graduating undergrad to going to grad school. It was something that I had told myself, this is something that I want to do. It's something that I'm going to do. Um, and then I got the job with the construction company, left the construction, and it felt like I was missing something. I don't know if that was, I was trying to decide, do I go to law school? Do I go to med school? Do I go to a PhD? Do I go to the military? And these are all still things that I'm thinking about now. And then I think that there is so much opportunity in this life for us to choose from. It's kind of overwhelming sometimes. So it's like, okay, if no matter what, if I go to law, or if I want to go to law school, I'm going to need a graduate degree because my GPA in undergrad wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm.
So to help increase my chances for that, I need to go to grad school. Whether I want to go to my GPA just wasn't good enough to continue an education outside of anything else really. So, or at least I didn't think so. So ended up deciding to go to grad school so that it will open up more opportunities for me. So I either go to the military and I have a higher rank initially. My everyone in my community was all like PhDs and master students, and one of them got Dr. Grubik got the opportunity to go be an aerospace physiologist for the Navy, and something that I spent a lot of time with in the lab, and he was like getting his pilot's license and training with the SEALs and doing all sorts of things. I
Yeah.
was like, man, like that is something that I would like to do, and I always wanted to go to the military, so it gives me both the opportunity to be in the military and also be an aerospace physiologist or work in exercise physiology. So I
Yeah.
was like, that sounds like a good idea, but there's no way that I can get there without a master's either. So I was like, okay, well, if I want to go down that route in the future, then I need a master's either way. So now it gives me the opportunity to go to law school or go to the military as an aerospace phys. And then med school became a thing, and possibly go be a sports medicine doctor. It's like the same thing. I need that foundation to be able to go pursue that. So lots of different opportunities to open doors. I think that's the biggest thing. It's somebody told me no one's ever going to be able to take that away from you. No one's ever going to take away your education. You're always going to have a master's, and you are seen differently once you have that master's. And even if it's only a master's and you get a PhD, it's a level of respect in some industries, but also at the same time, it's a level of knowledge.
Yeah.
And you get to choose how specific you get into that realm.
You know, so 18-year-old Ben, you're leaving, getting ready to go to A&M. Could you have imagined everything that you've experienced to this point?
Without a doubt, no.
Yeah.
No.
And I, I love your story. I love everything that you've experienced and you're sharing, because like I said, I think a lot of students, again, they have this misperception that I'm going to go and this is what I'm going to do, right? And it's kind of like a straight line, and it's rarely a straight line. I mean, and your case is a great example. And who knows where you're going to end up. I think you're going to continue to be successful. You've got a good head on your shoulders, but it sounds like also you're eager. You're eager to ask questions. You're not afraid to connect with people. You're not afraid to leverage your networks. And I think you look at things positively. It sounds like you have a lot of doors that are open for you, and you can go a lot of different routes. And as soon as you finish that master's degree, some additional doors are going to open for you. Thinking back, or maybe not thinking back, but what other advice would you like to share with students, with young people listening out there, young people that are, because I feel like, a lot of high schools today, and this is not, I'm not critical of the high school system, but I think a lot of times there's a lot of pressure on kids to figure out what they want to do really young. What advice would you give young people?
I remember being in that position. I remember sitting inside Dr. Lightfoot's office and telling him, it's like they want me to choose a major, and then that major is going to be what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And I felt so scared and overwhelmed, and like, how can this be the end all be all? I don't understand it. And it's not. You can choose something that's going to help open doors, and whether that be if I would have started as a basic exercise physiology or gone to food science route, it gives me the opportunity to apply to a master's program that doesn't necessarily require me to have that background. I mean, I could apply to law school right out of undergrad after taking the LSAT. It is without a doubt necessarily not an end all be all. It's surround yourself with as many people as you possibly can that have a mentality that you want to share. If the people, somebody told me, like the builders, you want to be around builders, people who are wanting to build relationships and grow, and whatever route that they grow in. People are so complicated. Life is so complicated. You have to not only deal with all these things, but also dealing with loans and dealing with like finances and personal relationships, romantic relationships, and everything in between. Relationships back home. How often it's hard. It's not gonna be easy. But one step at a time is the biggest thing, and also surrounding people that probably know more about a specific thing than you do. Like I don't know about the stock market, but I know that this other gentleman does, and he can give me advice as I ask. Ask.
Yeah.
There are never too many questions. There are never too many questions. I feel like I initially was scared to ask people questions up here. Like, man, they're gonna think I'm bothering them. Like, but no, people want to give you advice, and asking for advice is important. Without it, then I don't think that anybody would be where they are today. No, like not the most successful people. Think about them. They didn't get there alone.
Yeah.
No, nobody gets there alone.
Yeah.
And so I think even like using therapy, using every single resource that you have available to you, is going to be the most beneficial thing for you. And keeping healthy relationships is going to be very important. So I know that's a lot of things there, but those are a lot of things that I need to try to keep in my life and that I'm trying to constantly balance.
Yeah.
But always ask for help. I feel like there's trust. There's also a level of trust that you have to have with individuals as well. Understanding that when I came up here, it's kind of like, man, I'm from the valley. It's kind of weird. There's culture shock. Didn't think I was going to be accepted, but trusting that other people are there to help you is a big deal as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So Ben, thank you. I think this was a good way to start. This was a good way to start the podcast. I know you've asked if you can come back. You're always welcome to come back. The great thing about this podcast is this is the first episode. Who knows where it's going to go? My hope is that the format will continue with, I'll have folks that are professionals, that are, graduate school, that are out working, that have been through the sort of the college process, and they can reflect on that. I'm looking for varied experiences, and people that can give advice to young people that are just starting out and just trying to figure things out for themselves, but also to help put them at ease, because I feel like so many of them are anxious and nervous and feel like they've got to have it all figured out. And when in reality, you don't. That's the exciting part, is figuring it out as you go. So thank you again. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
I kind of want to ask you a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Did you have a similar experience going, like transitioning from undergrad to grad to getting a PhD?
Yeah, I went away to school thinking I was going to major in business, and I always tell this story to my students. Thinking I was going to major in business because I envisioned myself as a CEO with a corner office looking down at all of the little people working for me. I quickly realized that is not me. Like, that is not my character. But I think because I was going to Stanford, there was that expectation that I placed on myself, that like, I'm going to this university that's produced like all of these amazing business people and CEOs and whatnot. But for me, it's always been about helping people. And so, in high school, I used to tutor and I'd volunteer at the Head Start and with Boys and Girls Club. And I loved that. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed those relationships. I didn't know what I was going to major in then. And it took me till the end of my sophomore year till I declared. And even then, I remember when I told my parents that I was going to major in Chicano studies, my dad was like, can you get a job with that? Yep. And I said, yeah. I could do all sorts of things, right? And the whole time I was just like hedging my bets, like, oh God, I hope I can find work, And so I'm getting ready to graduate, and I think it's maybe midway through my senior year, and I'm thinking I'm going to be an elementary teacher, because every time I'd come home, I would substitute teach at the local elementaries, and I loved it. And they would give me like the worst kids. They would give me like the kids that nobody wanted to sub for. And I never had any problems with it. I loved it. And then I got cold feet. I got scared, and I thought, and this is in all seriousness, I said, I don't know everything. And I felt like, I remember being 5 and 6 and 7 and thinking my elementary teacher knew everything. Like, they knew every answer, regardless of what I asked them. They knew every answer. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know everything. and I got scared and I stayed. I stayed for another year and did a master's degree, like just right after. Just didn't even. They had we had a program called a co-terminal master's. So I just stayed. I applied during my senior year, got in, continued with a master's degree, and then I never planned to teach at a university. That was never part of my goal. Um, the job really landed in my lap. I was in the right place, the right time. Like you, I would go and visit all of my professors, and I would ask them about their lives and how they came to the decisions that they made, and their jobs, and what kinds of experiences they had. And so, like, this topic is really personal to me because I didn't have it figured out. I graduated number 12 in my class, and I was one of those kids that, like, I was supposed to have it figured out, and I didn't. Um, I told myself I would teach at the university for 3 years and then go back to school. Um, I went back to school but didn't leave. I kept teaching and commuted to UT for 2 years, and then lived in Austin for a summer. Um, and it was totally worth it. Everything that I've experienced in education, I would do it again within a heartbeat. Um, I don't regret a single thing. But like you, I think it's also opened a lot of doors for me, and I love it. I love that. I love that I can be doing this, that I can have a podcast, that I can still help kids, that I can still teach. Um, that's the exciting thing, and I don't want students to feel like sort of I've dug myself in this hole and this is all I can do for the rest of my life. No, you can do all sorts of things. And so that's really my intent there. But like you, I didn't have it figured out. I had to ask a lot of questions and visit with a lot of people. Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you're starting a podcast. I think that alone shows that you're still growing and still trying to figure things out, and the world is constantly changing, and we have to kind of adapt to what is the new thing, what is going to be either what is the new thing, and
Yeah.
how are we going to reach as many people as possible so that we can help each other. We can help each other. The goal was helping people for
Yeah.
you, and it went from something from local to this, which can grow as big as it needs to, or as it can.
Fingers
Right?
crossed, Ben.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping
I
for
hope
you
so.
too. Like it shows that we're always constantly, no matter who you are, you're always trying to figure it out, and no one is ever alone. Like we have each other. We can kind of bounce each other ideas off of each other here. Maybe you get something out of it, and I know I'll definitely get something out of this as well. So I think we're always constantly growing together.
Yeah. Awesome. I totally agree, man. So thank you again. I learned so much from you and from your talk, and I'm sure others will enjoy it and others will learn a lot from it. But thank you again for joining us. So this concludes the first episode of the Way to College podcast. Thank you to all of our listeners out there. Stay tuned for another episode, and we will be seeing you soon. All right. Take care.